She said, "Even if I stay out all night, I'm not obligated to explain where I am." I replied, "Okay, then neither am I." The next day, I made a decision about a job offer I had received from another city when I had been planning to reject it. Instead, I accepted it. Without telling her anything, I left. A year later, we ran into each other unexpectedly. When she saw me with another woman, she started crying. Then, she told me something that was truly shocking. "My name is Ian Reeves, and I'm a 32-year-old marketing director for a mid-sized agency in Chicago. I pull in about $95K a year, which isn't Silicon Valley money, but it's enough to cover my half of the mortgage on our Lincoln Park condo and save for the wedding we've been planning. I've always valued stability, honesty, and mutual respect above everything else. I'm not the kind of guy who needs the newest BMW or designer suits. I believe in building something real. 4 years ago, I met Brianna Walsh at a mutual friend's housewarming party in Wicker Park. She was 28, working as a freelance marketing consultant, and had this magnetic energy that drew people in. Auburn hair, sharp blue eyes, and a laugh that could light up a room. We hit it off immediately over craft beer and terrible karaoke. Within 8 months, we'd moved in together. By year 2, we'd bought the condo. Last spring, I proposed on the lakefront during sunset. She said yes before I even finished the question. The first 3 years were solid. We traveled together, weekend trips to Door County, a vacation in Napa, camping in Michigan. We hosted dinner parties, renovated the kitchen together, talked about having kids someday. She had her consulting clients. I had my agency work, and we respected each other's professional ambitions. I thought we were building towards something permanent. The wedding was set for next October. Venue booked, deposits paid, guest list finalized at 150 people. But somewhere around the 4-year mark, things started shifting subtly. She'd come home later than usual without mentioning where she'd been. She'd spend hours on her laptop, angling the screen away whenever I walked by. Her responses became shorter, more distracted. When I'd ask about her day, she'd give vague answers. Fine. Busy. The usual. I didn't think much of it initially. We were both stressed, her business was growing, I was up for a promotion. I gave her the benefit of the doubt because that's what you do when you love someone. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Thursday in late September. I remember because I had a crucial presentation the next morning for a potential client that could mean a massive contract for our agency. Brianna texted me around 6 p.m. saying she was meeting potential clients for drinks at some new rooftop bar downtown. "Sounds good. Kill it out there," I texted back. "Don't wait up," she replied. By 11 p.m. I was in bed with my laptop, running through presentation notes one final time. That's when I realized she still wasn't home. I checked my phone. No new messages. I sent her a quick text. "Hey, how'd it go?" No response. I figured maybe her phone died. I tried to sleep, but something felt off. Midnight came and went. Then 1 a.m. Then 2 a.m. By 3 a.m. I was wide awake, pacing our living room, genuinely worried. This wasn't like her, especially not before a big work day. I called twice. Both went straight to voicemail. "Hey, it's me. Just checking in. Call me when you get this." I texted her business partner Kelly and her college friend Jess. Nobody responded. The silence was eating at me. I sat on our leather couch, staring at the door, imagining worst-case scenarios. Car accident, mugging, something terrible. I considered calling hospitals, but that felt dramatic. She finally walked through the door at 4:47 a.m. Her makeup was smudged, black streaks under her eyes. Her hair was disheveled, half fallen out of the bun she'd left in. She reeked of alcohol, cigarette smoke, and cologne that definitely wasn't mine. The engagement ring was still there, but everything else felt wrong. "Where the hell were you?" I asked, standing up, trying to keep my voice steady. She kicked off her heels, letting them clatter against our hardwood floors, barely looking at me. "Out." "Out where? I've been calling you for hours. I was about to call the police." She sighed like I was being the most annoying person in the world. "Ian, I'm an adult. I don't need to check in with you every 5 minutes." "Check in." Heat rose in my chest. "Brianna, you were gone all night. You didn't answer your phone once. I thought something happened to you. I was terrified." She walked past me toward our bedroom, wobbling slightly. "I was with potential clients. We lost track of time. It's not a big deal." I followed her down the hallway. Not a big deal. You couldn't send one text. Do you know how worried I was? She turned around in our bedroom doorway, and that's when I saw it, this flash of irritation, maybe even contempt, something cold and distant that I'd never seen directed at me before. Even if I stay out all night, I'm not obligated to explain where I am. The words hit me like ice water. I stood there, stunned. What did you just say? You heard me, she said, pulling off her earrings. I'm not your property, Ian. I don't owe you a minute-by-minute breakdown of my life. We're partners, not parent and child. Something in me snapped, not into anger, but into this strange, cold clarity. I nodded slowly. Okay, I said quietly. Then, neither am I. She paused, looked at me like she was about to argue, then just shrugged. Fine. She went into the bathroom and closed the door. I went back to the living room and sat on our couch, staring at the wall until sunrise. The next morning, I went to my presentation running on zero sleep and pure adrenaline. I crushed it, answered every question, read the room perfectly, left knowing we'd land the contract. My boss congratulated me, clapped me on the shoulder, talked about fast-tracking my promotion. But my mind wasn't really there. I kept replaying Brianna's words, her tone, the way she looked at me like I was an inconvenience. When I got back to the condo around 2 p.m., Brianna was already gone. A note on the kitchen counter said she had client meetings all afternoon. Again. I sat down and opened my email. There it was, the message I'd been sitting on for 5 weeks. A tech startup in San Francisco, senior marketing director position with a 40% pay bump, equity package, full relocation assistance. They'd reached out through LinkedIn, flown me out for interviews in August, made an offer 3 weeks ago. I'd been planning to decline because of Brianna, because I thought we had a future worth staying for. I stared at that email, thinking about the woman who just told me she didn't owe me explanations. Then I hit reply and typed, I accept your offer. When do I start? They responded within an hour. Start date November 15th, 7 weeks away. For the next month and a half, I didn't tell Brianna. I went through the motions, came home, made dinner, watched Netflix beside her on our couch. She barely noticed. She was always on her phone, always out with clients, always coming home after midnight with increasingly flimsy explanations. Some nights she'd slip into bed without a word and be gone before I woke up. I started preparing methodically, sold my car privately, transferred money to a separate account, updated my address with banks and credit cards. I called our mortgage company about removing myself from the loan, complex but doable with proper notice and her financial qualification. I packed slowly, taking boxes to my buddy Brad's garage during lunch breaks. Man, if she doesn't respect you, you don't owe her anything, Brad said over beers one night. You tried. She checked out. That's on her. I just feel like I'm running away, I admitted. You're not running away. You're running towards something better. The wedding planning became surreal. Brianna would show me flower arrangements or venue photos on her phone, asking for opinions on details for an event I knew would never happen. I'd nod and give appropriate responses while mentally calculating cancellation fees and deposit losses. The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming. By early November, her behavior had become even more erratic. She'd disappear for entire weekends, claiming work retreats or client dinners that seemed to last impossibly long. When I'd ask basic questions about her schedule, she'd get defensive, reminding me of her declaration about not owing explanations. The woman I'd planned to marry had become a stranger living in our shared space. I handled the practical matters with surgical precision. I calculated my share of wedding costs, the photographer deposit, venue fee, catering down payment, everything we'd committed to together. I arranged for 6 months of mortgage payments to transfer automatically, giving her time to refinance or find a roommate. I contacted our wedding planner and vendors, taking full responsibility for cancellations and ensuring Brianna wouldn't face any financial penalties. On November 10th, I had everything ready. My possessions were either packed at Brad's or sold. My new apartment in San Francisco was secured, lease signed, utilities scheduled. I'd transferred enough money to cover all our shared obligations through the following spring. All that remained was the execution. I chose a Saturday morning when Brianna had another mysteriously long client brunch. She'd left around 10 a.m., saying she'd be back later without any specifics. I waited until her car disappeared around the corner, then spent 3 hours moving my remaining belongings out of our home. I left my keys on the kitchen counter, along with a sealed envelope containing a check for wedding cancellation costs and a brief note. The condo is yours if you want to keep it. I've handled 6 months of mortgage payments and all wedding vendor cancellations. My lawyer will contact you about removing my name from the deed. I hope you find what you're looking for. I didn't write anything about love or regret or second chances. There was nothing left to say that wouldn't sound either pathetic or vindictive. She'd made her position clear. She didn't owe me explanations. I was simply returning the courtesy. I drove to O'Hare and caught an evening flight to San Francisco. As the plane lifted off over Lake Michigan, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Relief. The knot in my stomach that I'd grown so accustomed to, I'd forgotten it was there, began to loosen. For the first time in months, I could breathe. Brianna tried reaching out. The text started Sunday morning. "Ian, where are you? Seriously, where did you go? Your stuff is gone. Are you seriously ghosting me right now? This is so immature. Call me." Then came the calls, dozens over the first month. I'd watch my phone light up with her name and a photo from our Napa trip, both of us grinning in a vineyard, and let it ring until it stopped. The messages grew increasingly frantic, then angry, then pleading. She threatened to call my family, my work, the police. She accused me of cruelty, of abandoning her, of being a coward. I never responded. What could I say? That she'd taught me I didn't owe her explanations? That seemed unnecessarily cruel. I simply applied the lesson she'd given me. By Christmas, the calls became less frequent. By February, they stopped entirely. The first few months in San Francisco were transformative. New city, new job, new everything. I threw myself into work, learning the startup culture, proving myself to a team that operated at breakneck speed. The energy was intoxicating after months of walking on eggshells at home. On weekends, I explored the city, walked across the Golden Gate Bridge, discovered incredible food in neighborhoods I'd never heard of. I joined a soccer league, started running in Golden Gate Park every morning. I felt lighter somehow, like I'd been holding my breath for months and could finally exhale. Around March, I met someone. Her name was Moira O'Sullivan. She taught me the pronunciation after I butchered it twice. She was a 30-year-old project manager at a partner firm. Red hair, freckles, sharp wit, and a laugh that made me feel genuinely happy again. We met at a networking event, started talking about the impossible cost of rent in the city, ended up getting drinks. We started dating casually, dinners in the Mission, weekend trips to Napa and Monterey, trivia nights in North Beach. It was easy, comfortable. She didn't play games. When she said she'd call, she called. When she was running late, she texted. When something bothered her, she talked about it. The contrast to what I'd left behind was stark. By August, we were serious. My career was thriving. My personal life felt healthy. I felt like myself again. Then my company sent me to a 2-week conference back in Chicago. Moira flew out to meet me for the last few days. We planned to explore my old neighborhood, eat at places I'd missed. I figured it was safe. What were the odds? On our last night, I took Moira to an upscale Italian place in River North. The restaurant was beautiful, exposed brick, dim lighting, jazz playing softly. We were laughing about her attempts to pronounce giardiniera when I saw her. Brianna, she was standing near the hostess stand with 2 women, scanning the restaurant. Then our eyes met. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she started walking toward our table, weaving between other diners. "Ian." I set down my wine glass. Brianna, she looked different, thinner, like she'd lost 20 pounds. Her face was more angular, tired, dark circles under her eyes. Her hair was shorter, darker. She glanced at Moira, then back at me, her eyes already watering. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice shaking. Moira looked at me, confused but understanding. I nodded. "Give me a minute." "Of course," Moira said softly, squeezing my hand. Brianna and I stepped outside into the cool evening air. The street was busy, cars honking, people everywhere. The energy of a Friday night in the city. "What the hell, Ian?" she said, immediately, tears forming. "You just left, no explanation. One day you're there, the next you're gone." "I could ask you the same thing," I said calmly. "You checked out months before I left. You stayed out all night. You told me you didn't owe me explanations. You treated me like I was controlling you for caring." She wiped her eyes, mascara smudging. "I was going through something. I didn't know how to talk to you about it. So you stayed out until 5 in the morning, ignored my calls, made me feel like I didn't matter?" She opened her mouth, closed it, looked down at the sidewalk. When she looked back up, her eyes were streaming. "I was pregnant." Everything stopped, my heart hammered against my ribs. "What?" "I was pregnant, Ian." Her voice cracked. "That night I came home late. I just found out that day. I took 3 tests at the office bathroom. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. So I went to Kelly's apartment. We talked all night. I drank too much. I made terrible decisions because I was panicking." My mind raced. "What happened?" Her face crumpled. "I miscarried 3 weeks after you left. I was alone, bleeding, scared. I went to the ER by myself. I tried calling you. I needed you, and you were gone." The guilt hit hard. "Brianna, I know," she said quickly, holding up her hand. "I know it's my fault. I pushed you away. I made you feel like you didn't matter. But I was so scared of what having a baby would mean, whether you'd even want it. We never really talked about kids seriously. My dad left when my mom got pregnant with my sister. I guess I was convinced you'd do the same thing, so I pushed you away first." We stood there in silence, people flowing around us on the sidewalk. Through the restaurant window, I could see Moira at our table, giving us space but clearly concerned. "Why didn't you tell me that night?" I asked quietly. She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know. I thought you'd be upset, or try to control the decision. I was irrational. I was terrified. I handled everything wrong." I exhaled slowly. "I'm sorry you went through that alone. I really am. But you made choices, Brianna. You chose not to trust me. You chose not to let me in." She nodded miserably. "I know. And I lost you because of it." She looked toward the restaurant window. "She seems nice." "She is." Brianna gave a sad smile. "You deserve that. You always deserve better than how I treated you." She wiped her face with the back of her hand. "I've been in therapy for 6 months, trying to understand why I self-sabotage. I'm on medication now. I moved back in with my sister. I'm trying to do better." "I'm glad you're getting help," I said, and meant it. "Thank you." She took a shaky breath. "I should let you get back to your dinner. I just needed you to know the truth." "I understand," I said. "And I'm sorry for how things ended. We both made mistakes. Goodbye, Ian." "Goodbye, Brianna." She walked back inside, gathered her friends, and left. I stood there for another minute, feeling numb and sad and relieved all at once. I flew back to San Francisco 2 days later. Moira and I talked through everything on the flight, an honest conversation about my past, about Brianna, about what happened. She listened without judgment, held my hand, didn't make me feel guilty for my choices. It's one of the reasons I knew she was different. Brianna and I exchanged a few emails after that. She apologized again, told me more about her therapy, said she was doing better, new consulting contracts, living closer to family, rebuilding her life. I told her I was glad, that I hoped she found happiness, but we both knew there was. No going back. 6 months later, I proposed to Moira at the top of Twin Peaks overlooking the city lights. She said yes before I even finished asking. We're planning a small wedding in Napa next spring, just close friends and family, no stress, no drama. My life is good now, genuinely good. I live in a city I love, doing work that challenges me. I'm engaged to a woman who communicates, who trusts me, who lets me in instead of pushing me away. I don't wake up anxious anymore. I don't wonder where I stand. I think about Brianna sometimes, usually late at night when I can't sleep. I wonder if things could have been different if we'd communicated better, if she'd trusted me with the truth from the beginning. But I also know that some relationships are meant to teach you what you won't accept, not what you will. I don't regret leaving. I regret how it happened. I wish I'd tried one more time to reach her. I wish she'd trusted me with something so important. But I don't regret choosing myself when it became clear she'd already chosen to keep me at arm's length. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away from someone who refuses to meet you halfway. It doesn't make you selfish. It makes you human. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Thanks for watching.